And now, a young person coming up here, ladies and gentlemen. He's all of 26 years old, and he is an author. Along with Glenn Beck, he authored the book, The Original Argument, which adapts the Federalist case for the Constitution. He appreciates at a very early age the unique and very special place in which he lives, and he's making the most of it. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a very warm welcome for Mr. Joshua Charles.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Just a little background. I grew up in Rockland. Yeah, who's from Rockland? I heard a yeah? All right, not enough, all right. Went to high school there, graduated in 2006. So grew up lifelong Californian, went to the most liberal university in the state of Kansas, and somehow I ended up a conservative still. So I wanted to offer some thoughts on some things that you might not typically hear about at a rally here, because I come from a pretty unique perspective. I won't presume to be a representative of my generation, because I haven't been elected or anything. But I will say that I come from a generation that unfortunately, and by the way, I'm 26, I'm 25, not 26, but that's been bankrupted before we've really been able to stand up. And it's really nerve-wracking to me. I head up the Rediscovery Project. This is the first project ever to fully organize and get ready all the writings of the founders, all of them, letters, diary entries, newspaper editorials, everything, speeches, into a form where they can be used for educational curriculum, media, entrepreneurial stuff. It's really, really exciting. And so when you were hearing about John Adams Academy, I'm going to be using some words from John Adams today. But the more I read our founders, the more I'm obviously horrified, along with you, with what is going on, not just in this state, but in the country. John Adams wrote a letter after he was president, and someone mentioned the American Revolution. And he said, by the American Revolution, do you mean the war? He said, the real revolution was in the hearts and the minds of the people. And he said it was a change in their religious sentiments regarding their obligations and duties. Obligations and duties. And so, and the other side of the puzzle for me, I helped found and was the president of a Christian fraternity on a college campus. I worked with young men for about 5-6 years, and I still do it just as a friend and as a mentor. And so I know this doesn't sound very connected to all this, but here's how it connects. I know what on the front line young men, young people are dealing with. I know the kind of family backgrounds they come from. I know that a lot of times they're not getting fathered at home. I know a lot of times they're not being raised on the Word of God. I know a lot of times they're not being taught what the virtuous, characterful life is. And I'll tell you what, no matter what's going on in the building behind us or in the like building in DC, if that's not happening at our homes, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. And so, usually when I'm not going to do it now, but a lot of times when I go to political gatherings, I ask the men in the room, I focus on the men, women, we'd need you as well, but just because I'm a guy. And I say, men, how many of you are discipling or mentoring other young men? And I'm lucky if I get a hand or two in the air. That's tragic. My generation isn't being passed a heritage. And until that happens, again, nothing that we do at these rallies is going to change anything. We need to do these rallies. We need to be politically involved. But until this is happening in our homes, in our churches, in our families, in our schools, we're not going to get the lasting change we want. This is a letter that John Adams wrote on April 15th, 1776. 237 years ago today. And he was writing to his wife, Abigail, and he was talking about how they should raise their children. This is what he said. Take care that they don't go astray. Cultivate their minds, inspire their little hearts, and raise their wishes. Fix their attention upon great and glorious objects. Root out every little thing, weed out every meanness. Make them great and manly. Teach them to scorn injustice, ingratitude, cowardice, and falsehood. And then the closing line, let them revere nothing but religion, morality, and liberty. Coming from the same John Adams. You guys need to know this guy. This guy's awesome. 10 years before the Declaration of Independence, he said, "Let it be known that British liberties," and we'll amend it. He said, "British liberties are not the grants of princes or parliaments." Let's amend it. "Let it be known that American liberties are not the grants of presidents or congresses." And then continuing the quote, "But that many of our rights are inherent and essential, agreed on as maxims and established as preliminaries even before Parliament existed." This building behind us does not exist to grant, give out, dole out, or redistribute rights. It exists to protect them. But here's the problem. Before you clap, here's the problem, and here's my point, and here's what I want you to come away with. There's a difference between having freedom and living freedom. There's a difference between having freedom of religion and actually using it to where it makes a difference in the world. There's a difference between having freedom of speech and, unlike all of us today, actually using it. There's a difference between espousing that which is right, but if it's not being passed on to the next generation, it values us nothing. We've got to think generationally here. These guys, he didn't have a home to go back to. George Washington had to borrow money to go to his inauguration, his first inauguration, because his estate was in such disrepair after the war. He gave up everything. In this same letter, John Adams said to his wife, "If my children want ease and pleasure and fortune over living independently and free, they are not my children." They are not my children. But you know what? We need to pass those values on. So again, I hate to be such a shameless advocate for them, but I'm not ashamed of it, so that's the reason why. When you hear about things like John Adams Academy, support them. They are doing the hard work of educating kids, and they need you, parents, grandparents, old men, old women. Don't despise being called old men and old women. We need you. We need your wisdom. We need your guidance. We need you to engage with the young people, not blame them. We need you to get your arm around their shoulder and teach them. We need you to raise them up in the admonition of the Lord. This is what we need. All this stuff, again, is great, but it's worthless if none of that is happening at the home. It's not happening in the churches. It's not happening in the schoolhouses. It's not happening between parents and kids. It's not happening between elders and the young. It needs to happen. And I want you to remember that. I didn't come here to get applause. If November 2012 proved to me anything, it's that I can't lay back and just expect that America will be all right. This is the rest of my life. And I don't begrudge that. That's the deal. That's the cards I've been dealt. That's the cards my generation have been dealt. But we need your help. You play a crucial role. So, you know what? If you're concerned about not being able to change the world, start in your own home. Start in your church. Start in your community group. We need you. Thank you very much. Be John Adams. Love you guys.
Joshua Charles, ladies and gentlemen.